Israel's security cabinet has met amid growing fears of an escalation of the conflict along the Israel-Lebanon border. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the meeting to discuss expanding their response to Saturday's deadly rocket strike on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Let's get some context on this from military analyst Frank Ledwidge. Frank, good to see you. Almost a day later, we've still got conflicting accounts about what has happened here. Israel saying it has evidence that Hezbollah carried out the attack, but Hezbollah denying any involvement. When you look at this case, could you talk us through which scenarios seem likely?
Good evening, Claire. There are a number of strange issues about this attack. First of all, as you saw in the report, it's the Druze community that received it. Secondly, it's in the Golan Heights, or the Golan, as they call it, on the Syrian side, and it's internationally Syrian territory. Similarly, on the Israeli side, it's difficult to see any alternative than this being a Hezbollah attack. The only possible attack the only other possible explanation I can think of, it's an anti-aircraft missile going awry, but I don't think that squares with the evidence we've seen. So conceivably, perhaps a rogue group or some form of accidental targeting. Either way, we see a mass casualty event and the possibility now of some degree of escalation. As I said, it is the first time that Hezbollah has denied an attack of the many hundreds of attacks they've made on Israel over the past few months, which says something, I suppose. But it's a mystery, no question about it.
Indeed. As you say, either way, Israel has vowed to strike back hard against Hezbollah. What do you expect that this might look like?
Well, you saw then some airstrikes or some footage of airstrikes, and that's been going on now, that kind of activity, for the last nearly a year, isn't it now? It's 9 months or so. And the Israeli sources have told me that they have killed about a quarter of senior Hezbollah leadership in strikes like that. So the kind of escalation we're likely to see, I think, is not mass escalation. I don't think we're going to see a huge war erupt over this, for the simple reason that it's in neither side's interests, and on neither side would such a war have support. But what we will see is an increase in rhetoric and in the scale and intensity of Israeli air attacks. It must be remembered that a large proportion, on the other hand, of the Israeli armed forces are deployed to the northern border, and I've no doubt at all that at very short notice they could conduct major operations in southern Lebanon. But that would be disastrous and catastrophic, I think, for all sides, and all sides know it.
So if it is in neither side's interests, as you say, I'm curious why you think we are now, in response to this specific attack, seeing Israel vowing such a quick and hard retaliation against Hezbollah.
No, there'll be a quick and hard retaliation, but I don't think it'll take the form of the kind of attack we saw earlier in the century, in 2006, where 4 armoured divisions entered the country, although the Israelis could certainly do that. What we'll see is an increase in the intensity on attacks on pre-targeted or pre-identified targets such as commanders, and most importantly, missile launching sites. And we have to remember the Israelis have been identifying these sites now for nearly, well, certainly 15 years. They're fully aware of where many of them are. And the main threat posed by Hezbollah isn't the 50,000 or so troops that they have, well-trained and experienced though they are. It's the missile force they can deploy, which the Israelis acknowledge that would cause major casualties in Israel were it to be deployed. But it's essentially a one-shot deal for Hezbollah, and they know that too. So, yeah, we'll see a continuing attacks on high-value targets and missile sites, but not, I think, a huge intervention such as the kind we've seen earlier in the century.